90% of people today are mentally weak, and that includes most people in this room right now. You cry when someone criticizes your work. You panic when your boss questions your methods. You lose sleep over comments on social media from strangers who do not even know your real name. You have turned yourself into a victim of every opinion, every setback, every minor inconvenience that crosses your path, while you are busy being offended, hurt and emotionally devastated by things that do not actually matter. Successful people are building empires, creating wealth, and achieving dreams that you claim are impossible. The brutal truth is this: your emotional fragility is not a sign of sensitivity or depth. It is a sign of weakness. And that weakness is costing you everything you want in life. There stands an oak tree in my backyard that has weathered 47 storms. While other trees around it have fallen, bent, or broken, this oak remains unmoved. Its secret is not in avoiding the storm, but in how deeply its roots run and how flexible its branches remain. You and I are no different from that oak tree. We face storms every single day. But the question is not whether storms will come. They will. The question is whether you will stand or fall when they arrive. Right now, at this very moment, someone is trying to shake your confidence. Someone is questioning your abilities. Someone is telling you that you cannot achieve what you have set out to accomplish. The difference between those who succeed massively in life and those who struggle is not the absence of these challenges. It is the presence of something I call mental armor. The ability to act as though nothing affects you. Most people live their lives like leaves in the wind, blown back and forth by every opinion, every criticism, every setback. They wake up feeling great until they read a negative comment. They start their day with enthusiasm until someone questions their decision. They begin a project with confidence until the first obstacle appears. This is not how successful people operate. This is not how you must operate if you want to achieve something significant with your life. Mental immunity is not something you are born with. It is something you build day by day, choice by choice, response by response. Every time you choose to remain calm when others panic, you strengthen this mental muscle. Every time you respond instead of react, you add another layer to your armor. Every time you maintain your focus despite distractions, you become more unshakable. Let me tell you the difference between reaction and response, because this single distinction will change how you handle every challenge for the rest of your life. A reaction is immediate, emotional, and usually regrettable. When someone criticizes your work and you immediately defend yourself or attack back, that is a reaction. When the stock market drops and you panic and sell everything, that is a reaction. When your boss questions your methods and you become defensive, that is a reaction. A response is different. A response comes after a pause. It comes from thought, not emotion. It comes from your values, not your feelings. When someone criticizes your work and you say, "Thank you for your feedback, let me consider what you have said," that is a response. When the market drops and you review your long-term strategy before making any moves, that is a response. When your boss questions your methods and you explain your reasoning calmly, that is a response. Successful people have trained themselves to respond rather than react. They have built a space between what happens to them and how they choose to handle it. In that space lies all their power. In that space lies your power too. Your brain is wired to react quickly to threats. This served our ancestors well when they faced physical dangers, but in today's world, most of our threats are not physical. They are psychological, emotional, social. Yet your brain still responds as if a criticism at work is the same as a tiger in the jungle. Your heart races, your breathing quickens, stress hormones flood your system, and you prepare to fight or run. But here is what successful people understand that others do not. You can train your brain. You can teach it to recognize the difference between a real threat and a perceived threat. You can learn to activate the part of your brain that thinks clearly instead of the part that panics quickly. When Nelson Mandela walked out of prison after 27 years, reporters expected to see bitterness, anger, resentment. Instead, they saw a man at peace. When they asked him how he could remain so calm after such injustice, he said something profound. Resentment is like drinking poison and hoping your enemies will die. Mandela had learned to act as though nothing affected him, not because he did not feel pain, but because he refused to let that pain control his actions. When Steve Jobs was fired from Apple, the company he had built from nothing, he could have become bitter. He could have spent years fighting legal battles or trying to destroy his former partners. Instead, he started new companies. He continued creating. He acted as though this setback was simply preparation for his comeback. And when Apple eventually bought his new company and brought him back as CEO, he led the company to heights it had never reached before. These are not superhuman people. They are people who learned to build mental armor. They learn to separate what happens to them from how they respond to what happens to them. They learned that their inner world is the only world they can truly control, and they mastered that world completely. This mental strength does not happen overnight, but there is a specific way to build it. There are 4 foundations that support unshakable confidence, and when you understand these foundations and begin to build them in your own life, you will find that fewer and fewer things can shake you. You will find that you can maintain your composure in situations that would have devastated you before. You will find that you can pursue your goals with single-minded focus, regardless of what others say or do. The first pillar is self-acknowledge. You cannot be shaken by outside forces when you know exactly who you are on the inside. Most people define themselves by their job title, their bank account, their relationships, or what others think of them. This is dangerous because all of these things can change overnight. When you base your worth on external factors, you give others the power to control how you feel about yourself. Self-acknowledge means understanding your core values, your natural strengths, your fundamental character. It means knowing that your worth comes from within, not from without. When someone criticizes your performance, you listen for useful feedback, but you do not let their opinion determine your self-worth. When you lose a job, you see it as a career change, not a personal failure. When a relationship ends, you learn from the experience without questioning your value as a person. I once knew a salesman who was rejected by 97 prospects in a row. While others might have quit or questioned their abilities, he remained confident because he knew something important about himself. He was persistent. He was learning from each rejection, and he was getting closer to finding the right customers. On his 98th call, he made a sale that earned him enough commission to live comfortably for 6 months. He succeeded because he knew who he was, regardless of temporary results. The second pillar is purpose clarity. When you know exactly where you are going in life, temporary setbacks cannot knock you off course. Think of yourself as a ship crossing the ocean. If you have no destination, every storm will blow you off course, but if you have a clear destination and a good compass, you can navigate around storms or sail through them without losing your way. Purpose gives you something bigger to focus on than your current problems. When someone questions your methods, you can explain why you do what you do. When obstacles appear, you can find ways around them because you know why reaching your destination matters. When others try to discourage you, their words have no power because you are committed to something larger than their opinions. The third pillar is skill mastery. Competence creates confidence that nothing can shake. When you are truly excellent at what you do, criticism loses its sting because you know your abilities. When challenges arise, you face them with calm assurance because you have the skills to handle whatever comes your way. This does not mean you must be perfect. It means you must be committed to continuous improvement. Every day you work to become better at your craft. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to strengthen your abilities. Every mistake becomes a lesson that makes you more competent. When you are constantly growing your skills, you develop unshakable confidence in your ability to handle whatever life brings. The fourth pillar is value-based living. When your actions come from your principles rather than your emotions, you become unshakable. Values are like the roots of that oak tree I mentioned earlier. They anchor you when the storms of life try to blow you over. Most people make decisions based on how they feel in the moment. If they feel confident, they take action. If they feel scared, they hesitate. If they feel angry, they react poorly. But when you live by values, your actions remain consistent regardless of your emotions. If honesty is one of your values, you tell the truth even when it is uncomfortable. If excellence is one of your values, you do quality work even when you do not feel like it. If persistence is one of your values, you keep going even when you feel like quitting. These four pillars work together to create unshakable confidence. Self-acknowledge tells you who you are. Purpose clarity tells you where you are going. Skill mastery gives you the ability to get there. Value-based living keeps you on track, regardless of how you feel along the way. When you build these pillars in your own life, something remarkable happens. The opinions of others lose their power over you because you know who you are. Setbacks become temporary inconveniences because you know where you are going. Challenges become opportunities because you have the skills to handle them. Emotions become information rather than commands because you live by principles that are stronger than feelings. But knowledge without action is powerless. You can understand these principles perfectly and still be shaken by every criticism, still be derailed by every obstacle, still be controlled by every emotion. Understanding is only the first step. The real transformation happens when you put these principles into practice through daily habits and consistent actions. Every morning, before the world has a chance to tell you who you should be, you must remind yourself who you are. The first hour of your day sets the tone for everything that follows. Successful people start each day by strengthening their mental armor before they face any challenges. Begin with 5 minutes of quiet reflection. Not meditation, not prayer, just quiet thinking about your goals and values. Ask yourself 3 questions. Who am I? What do I want to accomplish today? How will I handle difficulties if they arise? This simple practice programs your mind for success before external pressures can program it for stress. The most powerful technique for staying unshakable is what I call the pause. When something happens that could upset you, you pause for 3 seconds before responding. In those 3 seconds, you ask yourself one question: what response would serve me best right now? Not what feels good, not what seems natural, but what would actually help you achieve your goals. This pause technique works because it activates the thinking part of your brain instead of the emotional part. When your colleague criticizes your work, you pause and think about the best response. When traffic makes you late, you pause and consider your options. When someone treats you rudely, you pause and choose how to maintain your dignity. Those 3 seconds give you back control of your life. Reframing is another essential skill. Every setback contains the seeds of a comeback, but you must train yourself to see it. When you lose a client, you reframe it as an opportunity to find a better client. When you make a mistake, you reframe it as valuable learning that will prevent future mistakes. When someone rejects your idea, you reframe it as practice for presenting to someone who will say yes. Your body affects your mind more than most people realize. When you stand tall, breathe deeply, and move with purpose, your brain receives signals that you are confident and capable. When you slouch, breathe shallowly, and move hesitantly, your brain receives signals that you are weak and unsure. Change your posture, and you change your mental state instantly at the end of each day. Spend 5 minutes reviewing what happened without judgment. What went well? What could you handle better next time? What did you learn? This review helps you grow from every experience without dwelling on mistakes or replaying conflicts. You learn the lessons and then let go of the emotions. Never make important decisions when you are emotional. Institute a 24-hour rule for any decision that could significantly impact your life. When you are angry, hurt, excited, or fearful, your judgment is compromised. Wait 24 hours, Let your emotions settle, and then decide from a place of clarity. This single rule will save you from more mistakes than any other practice. Build your tolerance for stress by deliberately practicing calm under small pressures. When you are running late, practice staying relaxed. When technology fails, practice remaining patient. When people are rude, practice responding with kindness. These small challenges are training opportunities for bigger challenges that will come later. The key to all these practices is consistency. You cannot build mental toughness by practicing occasionally. You build it by practicing daily, even when you do not feel like it, especially when you do not feel like it. Every time you choose the pause over the reaction, every time you reframe a setback as a setup, every time you maintain good posture under pressure, you are building strength that will serve you for the rest of your life. These practices work, but they work only if you understand the deeper psychology behind them. Your mind is incredibly powerful, but most people use only a fraction of its potential because they let their internal world run wild instead of taking control of it. Inside your mind right now, there is a constant stream of thoughts, feelings, and reactions. Most people believe they are their thoughts. They think whatever pops into their head must be true and important. But here is a life-changing truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. You can watch them, evaluate them, and choose which ones deserve your attention. Think of your mind like a busy airport. Thoughts are like planes constantly taking off and landing. You do not have to board every plane that arrives. You can stand in the control tower, watching the air traffic, and decide which flights are worth your time. When a negative thought lands in your mind, you can observe it without letting it take you somewhere you do not want to go. This observer self is your greatest source of power. When someone criticizes you and anger rises in your chest, you can step back and watch that anger without being controlled by it. When fear tries to stop you from taking action, you can observe that fear and ask whether it is protecting you from real danger or just trying to keep you comfortable. When doubt whispers that you are not good enough, you can watch that doubt and remember all the evidence that proves otherwise. Every emotion you feel is temporary. Joy passes, anger passes, fear passes, excitement passes. When you truly understand this, emotions lose their power to control your actions. You can feel afraid and still move forward. You can feel angry and still respond with kindness. You can feel sad and still focus on your goals. Emotions become information rather than command. Champions think differently about problems than ordinary people do. When most people encounter a problem, they ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Champions ask, "How can I solve this?" When most people face criticism, they ask, "Why don't they understand me?" Champions ask, "What can I learn from this feedback?" When most people experience failure, they ask, "What's wrong with me?" Champions ask, "What will I do differently next time?" The questions you ask yourself determine the quality of your life. Ask better questions, and you will get better answers. Ask empowering questions, and you will find empowering solutions. Ask forward-focused questions, and you will keep moving toward your goals, regardless of what happens along the way. Your mind has patterns, and many of these patterns work against you. You might have a pattern of worrying about things you cannot control. You might have a pattern of comparing yourself to others. You might have a pattern of dwelling on past mistakes or future fears. These patterns are not permanent. They are habits. And like all habits, they can be changed. Breaking negative patterns requires awareness and consistency. First, you must notice when the pattern starts. Then you must interrupt it with a different thought or action. When you catch yourself worrying about something you cannot control, immediately focus on something you can control. When you catch yourself comparing your life to someone else's, immediately focus on your own progress. When you catch yourself dwelling on the past, immediately focus on what you want to create in the future. Resilience is not about avoiding problems. It is about bouncing back from problems quickly and completely. Resilient people understand that setbacks are temporary, that failure is feedback, and that every ending is also a beginning. They do not spend time asking why bad things happened. They spend time figuring out what to do next. The comparison trap destroys more dreams than any external obstacle ever could. When you compare your behind-the-scenes struggles with someone else's highlight reel, you will always feel inadequate. Your only meaningful comparison is with who you were yesterday. Are you growing? Are you learning? Are you moving toward your goals? These are the only questions that matter. Keep your vision of the future alive during present difficulties. What you focus on expands in your experience. Focus on problems, and problems multiply. Focus on possibilities, and possibilities multiply. Your future is created in your mind before it appears in your reality. There is a story about a young man who worked in a small-town hardware store. Every day, customers would come in complaining about their problems. The economy was bad, business was slow, nothing ever went their way. This young man listened politely, but he never joined their complaints. Instead, he focused on serving each customer better than they expected. He learned everything he could about hardware, tools, and home improvement. He studied business books in his spare time. He saved every dollar he could. While others complained about the economy, he prepared for opportunity. While others blamed their circumstances, he improved his skills. While others waited for things to get better, he made himself better. After 3 years, when a larger hardware store went out of business, he was ready. He had the knowledge, the skills, and the savings to buy that store. Within 5 years, he owned 3 stores. Within 10 years, he had built a chain of hardware stores across the state. What made the difference? He understood something that most people never learn. Small daily choices create extraordinary results over time. Every day you choose to grow instead of complain, you compound your success. Every day you choose to respond instead of react, you strengthen your character. Every day you choose to focus on solutions instead of problems, you move closer to your goals. This is the compound effect in action. Just as money compounds when you invest it wisely, your efforts compound when you apply them consistently. The book you read today makes you slightly smarter. The skill you practice today makes you slightly better. The positive attitude you maintain today makes you slightly stronger. None of these improvements seem significant by themselves, but over months and years, they create transformational results. Most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a day and underestimate what they can accomplish in a year. They want instant results, but they are not willing to do the daily work that creates lasting change. They want to be successful, but they are not willing to develop the habits that successful people maintain. They want to be unshakable, but they are not willing to practice staying calm under pressure. The young man in the hardware store understood that taking massive action means doing the right things consistently, not doing everything perfectly once. He did not wait until he felt ready to start learning about business. He did not wait until conditions were perfect to start saving money. He did not wait until he had all the answers to start preparing for opportunity. He started where he was with what he had, and he improved a little bit every single day. This is how you become unstoppable. You start taking action before you feel ready. You continue taking action when you face obstacles. You keep taking action even when results are slow to appear. Action creates clarity. Action builds confidence. Action attracts opportunity. The person who acts consistently will always defeat the person who thinks perfectly but rarely moves. But your success is not just about you. Everything you do creates ripples that extend far beyond your immediate circumstances. When you remain calm under pressure, you give others permission to stay calm too. When you respond to criticism with grace, you show others a better way to handle conflict. When you persist through difficulties, you inspire others to keep going when they want to quit. The hardware store owner eventually employed dozens of people. His calm leadership during difficult times helped them provide for their families. His commitment to excellence raised the standard for customer service in his industry. His success inspired other young people to start their own businesses. His decision to act as though nothing could shake him created positive effects that reached hundreds of lives. You have the same opportunity. Every time you choose strength over weakness, every time you choose growth over comfort, every time you choose action over excuses, you create ripples that extend far beyond what you can see. Your children watch how you handle stress and learn how to handle their own challenges. Your colleagues observe how you respond to setbacks and discover new ways to approach their problems. Your friends notice your unshakable confidence and begin to believe that they too can overcome their obstacles. This is why developing mental toughness is not selfish. It is one of the greatest gifts you can give to the world. When you become unshakable, you become a source of stability for everyone around you. When you act as though nothing affects you, you show others that they too can rise above their circumstances. But all of this requires a decision, not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions are perfect. Today, right now, at this very moment, you must decide whether you will continue to be blown around by every wind of circumstance or whether you will plant your roots deep and stand firm no matter what storms may come. You must decide whether you will continue to let other people's opinions determine your self-worth or whether you will find your value within yourself. You must decide whether you will continue to react emotionally to every challenge or whether you will respond thoughtfully from your principles. You must decide whether you will continue to wait for perfect conditions or whether you will start building your unshakable life today. The oak tree in my backyard did not become strong by avoiding storms. It became strong by standing through them. Each storm that failed to break it made it stronger. Each wind that failed to uproot it deepened its roots. Each season that failed to destroy it added another ring of growth to its trunk. You are that oak tree. Every criticism that fails to crush you builds your confidence. Every setback that fails to stop you strengthens your determination. Every obstacle that fails to defeat you deepens your resilience. You become unshakable, not by avoiding challenges, but by standing firm through them. The transformation starts now with your next thought, your next choice, your next action. You can begin this very moment to act as though nothing affects you, not because nothing matters, but because you matter more than anything that happens to you. Not because you do not feel emotions, but because you do not let emotions make your decisions. Not because you are perfect, but because you are committed to becoming the person you were meant to be. Your unshakable life begins today. Your unstoppable future starts now. The only question that remains is this: are you ready to claim the mental strength that has always been yours? Are you ready to build the unshakable confidence that will carry you through any storm? Are you ready to act as though nothing can stop you from achieving everything you were born to accomplish? The choice is yours. The time is now. Your unshakable life awaits.